Well, hello, everyone. I would say good morning here from Portland, but it is also evening for our special alumni guest, and maybe evening for many of you, whether you are watching this live with us today or going to be watching this on the recording later. My name is Janice Weiss, and I'm the Associate Dean and Director of the Environmental Law Program at Lewis and Clark in Portland, Oregon. Our assistant director has joined us. Her name is Tess Jacobson. Between Tess and me, I want to just say at the outset that we are both very happy to speak with you individually about whether this program is a good match for you and to talk about some of the pathways you might explore in making that decision. So we're going to give you a bunch of information today, but do not hesitate to reach out to Tess or to me for more information about the details of the program. We are focusing today on our LLM program, which of course is the post-law school degree. And we really welcome students from around the world, as you will soon hear from one of our alums. And so it's a very international, global group of students who join us, both in person, but also obviously even more online, since that's a convenience for folks who have full-time busy jobs and don't have the time to travel to Portland, or who have family or other obligations. So both of those options attract international students along with a healthy cadre of students from the US. So it's a very nice mix. So that's us, Janice and Tess, and we'll introduce Ingvild in just a few moments. So Tess, are you doing this one?
Yeah, I can
Great,
handle the next two
great,
slides. So
great.
thank you all so much, and thank you, Janice, for the intro. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the LLM in Environmental Natural Resources and Energy Law, kind of what it looks like for our international LLM students. Specifically. So we are one of the top environmental law programs in the country. In the US, we've been doing this program for over 50 years now, so it's really great. We've been teaching the LLM for nearly as long as the environmental law program's been around, and our online program has been going on since 2019. So we also have a pretty robust online program now as well. International students complete 28 credit hours. So the required courses are environmental law and 2 semesters of what we call emerging topics, which is taught by Janice Weiss. And it's a really interesting class about the current topics happening in environmental law all over the world. So it's very up and coming, constantly changes every semester, very exciting course, and a chance for students to explore an area of law that maybe we don't teach a class on as you're writing your blog post. We also teach an Intro to U.S. Environmental Law and Legal Studies course, which I teach, and that's for international LLM students who aren't from common law countries, to kind of give you an introduction to U.S. Legal studies, what it's like at a U.S. law school, and also an introduction to the common law system and environmental laws in the U.S. That's a 2-credit course that you do prior to the start of your other classes, usually in the fall. International students may take administrative law. Administrative law is a very big foundational course for environmental laws in the US. So we encourage international students to take it so you have a better understanding in your other classes, but it's not required. It is required for our US students, though, to take administrative law if you haven't taken it in law school. And then you are allowed to go outside of the environmental law program as well. So we've had some students who have taken some of the, maybe done a semester in person, if they're in the online program, just to be able to take classes maybe that we don't currently offer in the online program, or if there's other classes outside of the environmental law program that you would like to take. You just have to make sure that 18 of those credits are within the environmental law program, but we have plenty of environmental law classes. We're able to fulfill all of those credits within that time frame as well. Whoops. I went too far forward. Okay, there we go. Some of the curriculum. So our classes are, since we are a U.S. law school, they are heavily focused on U.S. environmental law, but many of our classes, most of them actually, I would say, and Ingvild can maybe talk more about this as she when she does her presentation as well. But there's going to be some focus on international law in most of our classes as well, whether that's maybe a few classes about that. And then some classes are actually focused on international law, such as international environmental law, and then some of the other courses that we offer, wildlife law, water law. These are all available in our online curriculum. And then again, we have a lot of courses that are available in person as well, if you choose to maybe do a semester or a class in person as well. Very exciting too. We always offer summer intensive courses. Some of those are offered via Zoom. So it's a really fun time for our online students to be able to have an interactive classroom for 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks long. And there's usually 3 hours either in the morning or the afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. And those classes are great because it really gives you a chance to kind of have a classroom experience, even though it's over Zoom, but where you're able to interact with other students and things in a face-to-face type of environment. All of our other online courses are taught asynchronously, which means you can do the work when you want to, when you're able to. As Janice mentioned, it's really great for people who are working professionals or who are very busy lawyers and legal professionals in their own countries. So it really gives you the opportunity to do the work when you want to or when you're able to. And there's a lot of involvement with the professors as well. Almost all of our professors have live Zoom office hours, things like that. So they're still able to engage with the students. You still are able to respond and get that, feedback from your professors as well. In the US, law school professors are very involved with their students. So they tend not to be super distant or anything. They love hearing from their students. They love interacting with their students. They love getting those questions and that opportunity. Okay, so now you know a little bit about our LLM program. I will turn things over to Janice to talk a little bit more about kind of what our international LLMs do and to introduce Ingvild.
Thank you, Tess. So a logical next question would be, what is the return on investment? Is the time and money that I will be putting into a degree like this going to advance my career goals? Obviously, a question you should ask really of any program or degree that you might be pursuing. I always think about the LLM as meeting goals of three different types of lawyers, depending where they are in their careers. And we have all of these and everything in between that come to our program. So the first type might be somebody who has been practicing a different kind of law, employment law, labor law, and realizes that what they really would like to do in the next phase of their career is environmental law. Many of you on this call today are obviously interested in environmental issues. It's an area that is very exciting, very dynamic, very impactful, and people feel passionately about using their legal skills in the field. So we get students who say, I've been happy doing this other kind of law, but environmental law really speaks to my heart, and I really want to pivot and move intentionally into environmental law. The second type is somebody who has some experience in environmental law, some background, and is really looking to add to or enhance their education so that they can advance in the field, maybe move up into a different type of job in the environmental or natural resources or energy field. And then we have folks who are already quite successful in the environmental field, but would really find that an LLM helps them with clients, with developing their business, developing their legal practice, and really using that to enhance their credentials even further. And as I say, we have everyone in between. There's no right or wrong time really to do a program like this, other than you're ready. You're ready to do that. So the basic premise of our program is that you are studying substantive areas of law. You are moving through classes that cover different topics. They are rich and robust in their reading requirements, the lectures you'll listen to, the discussion posts that you will work on, and then an exam or paper or combination of those. So it's really a robust learning program. You are going to come out with substantive knowledge in the areas that you are studying. And as Tess noted, the online program allows for flexibility. So you can choose to take one class at a time if that's what fits in your schedule, or you can take more than one, and you can change that every semester. Again, depending on what's going on, perhaps in your work or your family life, you've got that flexibility to do that. We also have set up our tuition for the LLM program so that it is a pay by credit system. So, in other words, you are just paying in any given semester for the number of credits that you're taking. So you might have more credits in one semester, and then you need to back down for budgetary or, as I say, work reasons. So you have that flexibility. The other thing I'll mention about the return on your investment is that we have an amazing alumni network, literally across the world. Ingvild is coming to us from Norway, and you'll hear from her in just a moment. We have LLM students and graduates pretty much on every continent in the world, and then, of course, deeply scattered throughout the United States. So you will be able to access that network in terms of professional development, networking, perhaps looking for that next job if that is your goal. So it's a really nice cohort, a very nice alumni group. Even if you weren't in classes with the people they graduated before you, everyone at Lewis and Clark is very willing to speak to students about their path. So I mention that because that's a very big hallmark of Lewis and Clark, that faculty help students find jobs, faculty help make connections, but so too do our alumni. So it's very oriented that way. So this slide shows just a few places that some of our international students have gone, what they've done with their LLM after graduating. And you can see we range all over the world here and in various sectors of environmental law. As you all know, there are jobs with non-governmental organizations, there are jobs with governments, and there are jobs in the private sector. And you can see from this sample list here a nice variety that shows several folks in NGOs, several folks in firms, some folks doing government work. There's no limits. In other words, we don't gear our students to one sector or the other. You are well equipped to go into any of those sectors. And again, this is just a sampling. As Tess said, we've been doing the LLM program for quite some time. So if you have a particular career path in mind and you are wondering if the LLM would help you get there, again, reach out to Tess or me, and we will likely be able to find an alum who is doing something similar to what you might want to do and put you in touch to talk about their path. So Tess, with that, I think we're going to turn it over to Ingvild. Ingvild graduated from our online LLM program just last May, and she was able to come out in person to attend our graduation ceremony with her mother, which was lovely. And in fact, we had several of our online students make the journey to Portland for the graduation, and it was just terrific. I mentioned that Ingvild hails from Norway, and Ingvild has a really amazing career, and she can tell you more about it. The slide here talks about all the things that she works on, particularly with a global focus on legal issues relating to industrial carbon management. carbon capture, carbon storage. Obviously, very big issues, very emerging issues, very complicated issues. And prior to working and founding her company, IOM Law, she was with a large law firm in Norway and has also spent time in Brussels developing her knowledge and background in carbon management. And what a timely career she's had. She also has some other wonderful accomplishments that are listed in that second paragraph there. She is widely recognized as a national expert in these areas regarding carbon capture. And I will just also say, Ingvild represents a wonderful example of an incredibly busy person with a full and busy practice and job who managed to make the online LLM work for her. And so she can tell you about her experience, but we are thrilled to have Ingvild with us today and thrilled to have her be one of our alums. So Ingvild, we'll open it up to you to say more about your background and your experience with the program.
Thank you so much, Janice, and thank you for the great introduction. And hearing, well, both you and Tess talking about the program and showing pictures from Portland and from Oregon makes me want to go back again and do another LLM. So I will not do that. One is enough. But I just want to thank both of you and all the staff at Lewis and Clark for making this possible for me, because it's a team effort. And as Janice mentioned, there's a and Tess was talking about as well, there's a great interaction, not just between the students, but also between the professors and the students. And I had the privilege of having many discussions with Janice and Tess and others at the faculty, talking about legal issues, talking about how to manage my degree in a way that wouldn't make me break my neck in the efforts. And I really felt that I was connected to the university or to the law school, even without being there in person. So when I decided to do my LLM, I kind of came into that category Janice talked about, of people who had already worked for a while in the field. So I had done carbon capture and storage, or climate change law, if you will, for many years before I joined Lewis and Clark. And for me, it was about kind of building the experience and the knowledge about the US legal system to a more extensive degree than I had already, because I do have a lot of clients and projects in the US and also internationally. So I felt that I really needed some more formal background and more training in the common law system than I had, because I'm from civil law system myself. So I spent quite a lot of time searching for the right program for myself and also the right school. I needed flexibility, but I also needed to make sure that the school I chose was a good school, that it had good credentials, that it was recognized widely, not just in the US, but also abroad. And Lewis and Clark came on top, both on the flexibility, but also on the qualifications and providing good programs. So, and it came recommended through actually law professors at other law schools that I talked to when I asked them where should I go, and they said definitely Lewis and Clark, that's the best for you. So I'm really happy that I listened to the advice I got, but also that I had the chance to go and visit Lewis and Clark in person, to talk to people, to see the school, to kind of take the vibe in a little bit before I decided. I had planned originally to do summer school in Portland, to do some summer semester, but COVID kind of messed that up. So the pandemic shut everything down. So I was bound to do everything from Norway. Unfortunately, I wish I had the opportunity to spend a few weeks in the wonderful study hall that I've been fortunate enough to spend a couple of days in a few times, but still, I want more. The experience was great. It was as flexible as Janice talked about. I travel a lot for work. I also have like other lawyers around the world in private practice and, of course, also non-private practice. Busy days with maybe not as much predictability as we always like to have. But I could take the lectures whenever it suited me. I could schedule my reading whenever I wanted to, if it was early in the morning or late in the evening or on an airplane somewhere. I was still able to set aside the appropriate amount of time. I had to scale back a couple of times and I spent longer than I originally planned. And that was both because of work and work being demanding, but also I lost a parent during the process of graduating from law school. Uh, and that, for those of you who've been through losing a parent or a close one, you know that that is very not just time consuming, but also very emotional and demanding time in your life. And Lewis and Clark and all of the staff were so amazingly welcoming, caring, and understanding in that situation and made that possible. So I'm forever grateful for the support I got both during that period when he passed away, but also afterwards when I tried to kind of figure out what was up and down in my life and how to manage both work and school and all of the other obligations that I have been stupid enough to bring upon myself. Uh, I could probably talk for hours, and I would love to come back to Lewis and Clark for both in person and online appearances, but I just, before we probably turn this into kind of a Q&A and discussion, I would like to emphasize also that if any of you would like to talk to me in person, please feel free to reach out. I have only good things to say about Lewis and Clark, and I can definitely discuss topics with you, classes, curriculum, how things work during your degree. I would like to say one thing though, a class that wasn't really promoted during the presentation that we just heard was a research topic option that you have. So you can basically, if you don't find a topic on the list of classes that are available to you, you can actually design kind of your own class. I did that. So I wrote a paper, a research paper, and I had Professor Rolf as my tutor during that process. And then I managed to combine the US law with the international law and the European law perspective to kind of weave it all together and do a comparison of the different legal systems and how they interact with the public international law. So some of those classes that we had were very US centric, but I found that most of them, like as mentioned as well, that you have the water law, the wildlife law, they have elements of public international law in them. Same for ocean and coastal law, and kind of I found that it was a good way to learn about how the US has implemented public international legal instruments and how that interaction between domestic and international frameworks go hand in hand. I think that overall it was a very good experience and it helped me gain new perspective on things. Basically, from already the first class being the introduction to U.S. Legal system, which I found very helpful since I hadn't really studied any common law before. So I don't know, Janice, if that is
That's
an
perfect.
okay
That's
introduction.
perfect. That is absolutely perfect. Thank you. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the individual research option because as Ingvild mentioned, it really is an opportunity, along with the classes, as she mentioned also, but it's an opportunity to really do some comparative work with your home country and a US area of environmental law or a truly international topic. And so that allows you to really be creative and also to work on something you would find useful as you are advancing your professional goals. And it can then serve in part or in whole as a writing sample for applying for jobs. And it might also be publishable in some form if you wanted to go that direction. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Ingvild, because that does add an element specificity that people might really appreciate. And thank you for outlining your experience, because as I said, Ingvild has a very busy job, a very busy life, and she managed to, fit this in. And I think the fact that you said sometimes evenings, sometimes mornings, whatever your week looked like, that's the point. That's the point of the online program, that it might be Sunday afternoons, whatever works for you. So thank you. That was perfect. We're going to talk just a little bit about the application process, and then we'll open it up to all of you for questions, and we can also bring up some frequently asked questions that we get. So Tess, I'll kick it back over to you.
Thanks, Janice, and thank you, Ingvild. It's always great to hear about your experiences and hear it from the student perspective as well. So just a few more points before we get into the Q&A. So the application process, if you decide, again, reach out to me, Janice, Ingvild, whoever. If you have more questions about the program, want to decide if this is the correct program for you, we're always happy to talk with you about that. So kind of what we look for in applicants is you do need, for the LLM specifically, you do need to be a graduate of an accredited US or international law school. That would be the JD if you're in the US, or something like an LLB or the equivalent. If you are not a graduate of a law school, we do have another program called the Master's in Study of Law that is for people who are not law school graduates but want a better understanding of the law. If that is you, I'm always happy to meet with you and discuss that more as well. We always look for excellent academic records, so we're going to ask for your unofficial law school transcripts and strong legal research and writing skills. This is, you can show this through resumes, through writing sample, things like that as well. And then most importantly, perhaps, is a genuine interest in environmental, natural resources, or energy law. And you will ask for a personal statement. So this is where you can, really talk about your interest in that, either, whether you have been in it for years like Ingvild was, or if it's something that you're transitioning into or just wanting more knowledge about. That's probably the most important thing that we're looking for. Importantly, actual bar membership is not required. So if you're a recent graduate or you're not active in a bar organization, that's not required for the program. I mentioned a few of these, but just going over the requirements for the application. So we have an online application form that you will fill out. And then again, that statement of interest that I mentioned is going to talk about your background. It's going to talk about your interest in the program and how you think the program might benefit you in your career. This is going to be pretty short. It doesn't need to be lengthy or anything. 1 page or so, about 200 to 500 words is kind of ideal. And then we're going to ask for a resume to show your work and educational history and those unofficial transcripts, and then 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. These can be from, if you're a recent graduate or you have, contacts with professors that you knew. So it can be professors or somebody in an academic setting. It can be somebody in the work setting as well. So a supervisor, a coworker, a volunteer supervisor. We have people who haven't been in the workforce for a bit. So they come in, and those letters of recommendation can maybe come from volunteer supervisors that they had or coworkers that they had previously worked with. But we do ask for professional letters of recommendation. So, we know your friends and family would always recommend you well, but we do ask for more professional letters that can speak to your ability to succeed in an academic program like this. International students, if you're from a non-English speaking country, we do ask for a TOEFL or an IELTS score, or other evidence of English fluency. So, those scores are the easiest, but if you don't have those scores, you can meet with me. We'll have a conversation about how else you might be able to prove your English fluency, because everything is taught in English and it does require extensive reading and writing. So we want to make sure that we are setting you up for success in the program as well. And then lastly, before we get into the Q&A, kind of what are the next steps? So fall classes begin in August. So the intro course begins in the middle of August. And then the remainder fall courses begin at the end of August. So we do have a priority application deadline of April 1st. And if you have any questions about the application or about submitting it on time, please reach out to us. We are a little bit flexible with that date, so we can work with students if we know ahead of time. We do also offer tuition awards. So if you are a student who maybe will be taking a break from work or just want a tuition discount, we offer tuition awards and that are based on merit and need. So just request that from us. We have a form that you fill out, and then we can give you a percentage off your tuition for the life of the program. All right, and then let's see, I will turn it over for the Q&A. Please feel free if you want to ask. This webinar, or it's not even a webinar, this Zoom meeting is really designed for you to be able to ask questions live if you want to, or if you would prefer to drop them in the chat, you're more than welcome to as well. But otherwise, also feel free to just raise your hand via Zoom or unmute yourself or drop them in the chat.
And Tess, while we're maybe letting people think of questions, let me emphasize again, if you have individual questions about your own path, the three of us are all happy to chat with you by email or by Zoom to really talk about your your path. I do want to mention too, we may have some US students on the call and or listening to the recording later, and we can also provide a list of the types of jobs that US students who get the LLM who want to remain in the United States get. And basically it follows a similar pattern across all three of the main sectors in the field, which of course is again NGO, government, and private sector. So we can certainly walk you through those career paths as well. But I have a question for Ingvild. Ingvild, how do people, when they hear that you got a US LLM as you're traveling the world doing all of your great work, um, what is the reaction to that? I imagine that it's positive, but do you get questions? Do you have to explain it sometimes, or how does it resonate in the international world?
Well, that's an excellent question. And yes, I do get comments and questions about the LLM. Most people are impressed with the fact that it's possible to do that with a little bit more than a full-time job. But also it's kind of, but why? You are already a lawyer, and you already work in this field, and you are already traveling to weird places and do work. Why do you need more education? And of course, one of the things, and also, how was it possible for you to do that? So I have to explain about the flexibility and the online, because I also get questions about, well, did did you live in the US when you did this? How is that even possible? So I get a lot of questions about the flexibility and the online options, and if that is even a valuable option to actually to do a degree in, because most people are used to the classroom situation. And what I normally tell them is, actually, I know my professors at Lewis and Clark better than I know my professors at the Norwegian Law School, because in my Norwegian Law School we had 300 students in the class, so it didn't really help to have a face-to-face class in person, because you never got to talk to your professor anyway. So that is one thing that we discuss a lot, and when it comes to why I did it, and the benefits that I've gotten from it later, is I do a lot of work with regulators around the world, and I develop regulatory frameworks for developing countries, for example. And to have that background with to be able to compare common law and civil law systems, and maybe take the best out of both worlds, and use those tools to make fit for purpose frameworks, been very helpful. And I would say it has also increased my network. I do have contact with some other alumni, and we discuss work, we discuss legal things, we help each other spread news if something is going on. So it's been a very helpful experience, although it was worky. I will not lie, it was a worky experience, but I would do it all again. I loved every second.
That is great. And this reminds me that it might be good to mention something that we, the faculty, learned when we first started offering the online program. Because Ingvild mentioned sort of the setting and the contact with professors. And We learned, interestingly, when we started offering the program, we first started offering the LLM online in 2019. And before that, we had offered it in person, and now obviously both. But one of the pleasant surprises for our professors was, as Ingvild mentioned, the interaction with students. We weren't sure how that would work because we're in different time zones. We're not in a live classroom together at the same time. Although many professors will hold Zoom sessions and office hours to allow for that live interaction. But there is something very beneficial about what we call the discussion posts. And so you are listening to the lecture, doing the readings on your own time, and then you post a response to a question that relates to the material. Sometimes there's a quiz, but it's often a question. And you will respond, and then you can see your classmates' responses, and that can generate discussion and conversation amongst the students that you really can't have in a live class because the professor would say, "All right, everybody, we got to keep going here," but that time is for you to interact with your students. And we've really enjoyed seeing that camaraderie. The other thing is because you have these discussion questions and these check-in points really very regularly, um, you are really always needing to keep up with the classes. As Ingvild noted, it's busy. But we also have seen that students are then very prepared at the end of the semester for the exam or the final paper, whatever the method of evaluation is, because you kept up. It's very easy in an in-person class to maybe cram at the end. You might make it through, but you really are keeping up in this online format. And we as faculty have found that is a really the best way for adult brains to learn, is to keep that going. So it really has turned out to be a good pedagogical method, particularly for professionals like all of you who are coming into an LLM program. You're ready for this kind of format. You had your undergraduate experiences probably in person or hybrid. You're very well equipped for tackling a program like this. So I just thought I would mention that
I
as
think
well.
that
Yeah.
that's a very good point, actually, because when you mention it, I rarely had a lot of time in before my exams to sit down for a few days to kind of summarize my semester and go through my notes. I was lucky if I was able to gather my notes in one place before my exam because they were usually open book exams.
Right.
However, I'm not sure if I opened my books a lot during my exams because it wasn't really time, because when you get into that zone you start writing, and then you're kind of just, maybe you're looking up a keyword or the name of a case, a supreme law court case or something. But it wasn't really a lot of time for me to prepare for my exams. But because we had such a good workflow with discussions, with the need to prepare each and every module, it was still enough for me to go through the exam without having an awful experience. And worth mentioning as well, the exam date is flexible, so it was within a fortnight or something that we could choose. So that was also basically the only way that I was able to make my exams because of my travel schedule. Which also made it possible for me to actually graduate in the first place. So I'm super happy for that flexibility.
That's great. Well, and yeah, you make me think if you have a busy job, many of you on the call probably do or will, you can't take a whole week off of work and family and say, don't bother me, I'm studying for my final exams, and turn everything else off. But if you're able to keep up throughout the semester, of course you're going to need some study time. Of course you're going to need that time. But I think you just have built it into your schedule for the semester rather than having to really worry about too much, at the end. And again, it depends on what kind of student you are, and how you like to approach things. But there is some very positive benefits to this online system in that way, for sure, for sure. Um, Let us pause and see if anyone on the call has any questions. And if not, again, we will welcome them as emails or set up a Zoom call with any of us. Tess, can you think of any questions that we may have missed that we often get?
So the only thing that I will mention, and I didn't mention it when we were talking about the application, is that I mentioned a fall start date, but we do have start dates for spring and summer as well. So you don't have to start this fall if you don't think it's ready for you. We offer spring and summer start dates too. So we have a lot of flexibility with when you can start in the program as well. So our spring start date is a January start date, and our summer is typically a May or June start date.
And it's good you mentioned that because we do have 3 terms. If you want to just keep going and power through the program, summer school is light. It's not as many classes, it's a shorter time period. But that is an option if you want to do summer, fall, spring, take a semester off, keep going. Starting in the summer, there is one nice advantage. If you are an international student who's interested in US administrative law, or you're a US student who didn't take administrative law in law school, that's when we offer our online administrative law class. And so it's a really great way to start the program to get that foundational course done in the summer. Then you're pretty well equipped to jump into the rest of the classes. You don't have to, there's no real prerequisites. It's fine if you do a different order. But we find that a lot of our students like to sort of jump into the program by taking that one summer class and then moving through. So it's a good option for sure, for sure. Well, we thank all of you for being on the call with us. Thank you, Ingvild, for beaming from Norway to be with us, and thank you for your very helpful perspectives. And we look forward to talking with any of you who may have questions about the program. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you, Tess.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
Ingvild. See you later.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.